That killer thrash metal riff you just heard, we are going to learn how to play that in this video today. So I'm excited for you to learn this because there's a lot of really cool little concepts and techniques that are kind of thrown in there that we're going to go over. Now, the caveat to this, and we're going to get right into the lesson here, but the caveat is we are in D standard tuning here, and I'll talk more about why in our guitar chat at the end. You know, we always have our little guitar chat at the end of these lesson videos, so make sure you hang around for that. Even if you're not in D standard tuning, go through this video. Again, you're going to grab some concepts and some techniques, and I want you to apply those techniques to whatever tuning you're in. It doesn't really matter, okay? One more thing, my Patreon supporters, you guys actually have the tabs and the backing tracks to this lesson, so make sure you check that and grab those. Let's get into the lesson, guys. Alright guys, so there are 3 parts to this thrash metal riff in D standard tuning. And again, it doesn't matter what you're tuned to. I mean, if you've got a guitar that's already tuned to D standard, or if you want to tune one to D standard, again, just make sure you do the right thing with a Floyd before you start messing with that. That can be a headache. But just go through the places on the fretboard that we'll be playing on your guitar regardless of the tuning, and just try to follow along the best you can. Let's go through the easiest part first, which is going to be the series of power chords. We're doing some palm muting on the open string there, which in this case is the D string, and then we're moving some power chords around. There's a little caveat to some of that movement, and I want to share that with you because it's a really cool technique that you can implement in your own writing and just playing in general. So let's go through that. I'm going to play it just out in the open, the first part of this riff at normal speed. Then I'm going to break it down really slow, and we'll talk some more about it before we move on to the other 2 parts, which those are the riffs. Those will really be fun and cool to play. So here's part 1. Okay, and I just kept it going in between where the riffs would have been. I just want to kind of keep the flow going there, just so you can keep playing that. And I encourage you, if you want to pause the video and just go through that. If you've got that already, it's like, okay, that sounded cool. Just pause the video and go through that a few times and then come back to this, okay? So let's talk about what we're doing before we move on to the riffs here. Again, we're moving the power chords around a little bit. The caveat though is when I'm going from, in this case, again, we're in the key of D minor. We're in D standard tuning. So I'm going from that D power chord, that open first string, okay? Then I'm going to go over to the next 2 strings, the A and the D strings. I'm going to be playing on frets 2, 4, 3, 5, back to 2, 4. Then we're going to go open 2. The last power chord will be on the 1st and 2nd string, 3 and 5. Then back to that open, okay? So go through this with me. Okay, we've got the power chords down, but listen to what we're doing from the one power chord to the next when we're on the A and the D string. And of course, in this case, in the case of this tuning here, I'm looking down at my notes because I don't remember. We're going from an A to a B flat, back to an A, then to a G and F, okay? So if you're in standard tuning, that would be the B power chord, B, C, B, A, G. But remember, I'm in D standard tuning here, so everything basically drops a whole step. So it's kind of an easier way to figure that out. But what we're doing, there's a little slight caveat here. Listen to this real quick. I'm almost kind of putting in a little slight stop in between some of these power chords here, and this is the part that I really want you to hone in on. And again, just pause the video if you need to practice that, going back and forth. What this does, guys, is it gives your music a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit more power and spice, and just something a little different, something that maybe captivates the listener. And that's what really writing music is all about. You want to capture that attention, and it's like, oh man, that was awesome, I like what they just did, I like where this song is going. So that's what makes these little nuances, these little, you know, I don't even know what this technique is called, but we probably make up a name for it. You guys can make up a name and drop it in the comments, but whatever this little technique is, we're just kind of stopping in between and going to the next. It just adds a little flavor to the riff. So that's what I wanted you to grasp. We're doing a little stop. And I know we're staying on this little part of the riff for a while here. We're about to move on, so hang tight with me here. But one thing I want to share with you real quick is I am using my palm a little bit to kind of stop the sound of the chords resonating in between. So I'll put my palm down there and kind of palm mute that. And it's not a full-on dead stop. It just kind of stops the strings from carrying on, stops that, you know, those notes from carrying over, if that makes sense. So anyway, practice that technique, okay? If you need to pause, practice the technique. But let's move on to the second part of this awesome thrash metal riff. I love these types of riffs, and I hope you do too. I hope you have just as much fun playing this. We're about to go through this. So number one, when we're playing riffs that may seem a little complex, right? When you hear something, you're like, okay, that's some fast picking involved there. We've got like that 1, 2, 3, what I like to call a gallop, like the galloping demon bulls. I put in my one video I did, I think it was the 30 Days of Metal Riffs. I called something galloping demon bulls, something like that. Anyway, we'll go through that part. First, let's just break down the notes that we're playing, okay? We're on the first string, right? And that's all we're playing, just the first string. So right there, we simplified everything. Just one string, not that bad. The notes, let me just play through these really slow for you. I'm not gonna do any special technique, no gallop. Here are the notes. Real easy. 8, 7, 5, back to 7, 5, open, 2, 3. One more time. Now, if you want to just pause the video and play that, let me do that one more time. Now, that's not how we play the riff, okay, but I'm just playing the notes. Again, if you want to pause and go through that, what we're doing in this case, and I found this has helped me over the years, is we're kind of lodging the notes and the mind-muscle connection, if you will. Those of you who weight train and bodybuild and all that, you understand the mind-to-muscle connection, where you focus on that muscle, on what you're doing. And what it helps do is just, it makes the muscle work harder instead of just moving from A to B. Here, what we're doing, we're kind of working that connection, the mental connection between our brain, right, our noggins, and our fingers. It's a very, very focused connection between the two, and we're kind of forcing ourselves to know where to go, right? Before we apply the technique. And this, to me, this makes it easier. It may or may not work for you the same. I know, different strokes for different folks. Like my 5th grade teacher told me, that's stuck with me over the years. But to me, this is something that's helped me. It's like, okay, well, what notes am I playing? Okay, now let's start applying the techniques. It's kind of like mapping everything out. So now let's apply the technique. So what are we doing here? Actually, it's kind of the same. We're only throwing in one little technique, and it's that gallop. The technique that we're throwing in here is the galloping, and the galloping is just a 1, 2, 3, really quick. Okay. Oftentimes the gallops are played on just one note, one fret there. We start that way, okay? But this is where it gets really, really interesting. This is where the riff just takes a new life of its own. Instead of just galloping on the one note, which that is the 8th fret of the 1st string, we're gonna gallop 1, 2, and this is alternate picking, right? It's 1, 2, 3. By the way, I do have another video of how I hold my pick when it comes to downstrokes and alternate picking. You can check that out later if you want. But here, 1, 2, 3. But we're playing the first note, that 8th fret, with those first 2 quick picks, right? That 3rd note, we're gonna move from the 8th fret to the 7th fret. So it's like, what I would say is, don't even think about what you're doing. This is something else that's really helped me over the years. And again, this is just the way my mind works. I tell you guys on like every other video, I'm kind of like Leonard Skinner. I'm a simple man, I like to keep things really, really simple up here. If you overthink this, right, it's like, oh, I can't do that twice and go here. Don't think about it. Allow yourself the freedom just to play it, okay? It will come to you. But again, if you need to just practice the 1, 2, 3, the galloping on the 1 string, and then integrate playing that 7th fret on that last note, that third pick. And we're palm muting as we're doing this as well. After we do that quick 1, 2, 3, that gallop, that quick alternate pick, we just go through the rest of the notes. I just screwed up. That's it. On that note, no pun intended, let's move on to the 3rd part of this thrash metal riff. Now, this is the final part here, what I just played for you. You'll notice the very first part, though, of this riff that we learned at the beginning, the power chord-based part, we actually go through that twice. We play the power chords, then we play the riff that you learned in the last section of this video, then we go back to the first part again, and now we're going to play the final part of this riff. So I said 3 sections. There's actually 4. It's just that 1 and 3 are the same. So hopefully that didn't confuse anyone, myself included. It's essentially I don't want to say the exact same thing we just learned, but it's very similar in nature. The technique is the same. Okay, so we're just going to be playing some different notes on this. So instead of this, we're playing this. So actually, a few less notes here. Let's go through the actual notes first, though. Alright, so we are starting out on the 10th fret this time. Again, very similar to what we just played, right? The 10th fret, go 10, 8, 7, 8, 7, open, and then end on that 3rd fret. So again, guys, if you need to pause the video and just go through this right here. pause it and do that. But after we learn those notes, now we've got the notes, they're lodged in our noggin up here, and we know where we're supposed to go. We've got that, we've built that connection there. Now we add in the technique. And again, the only thing we're doing here is that really quick galloping technique, okay? And we're gonna do that on frets 10. Remember, 10 is going to be played twice. 1, 2, then 3. 1, 2, 3. That's going to be the 8th fret. So it's going to be like this. And I've got my fingers. I know it looks a little weird. Like normally, if you were just playing that, you would use probably your 1st and 3rd finger. But in this case, I'm using my 2nd and 4th finger because of everything else we're doing after that. So that's pretty much it. And if you want to stop and practice just that part right there, feel free to do so. So we're going to get to the guitar chat, but let's run through this thing one more time. I'm going to play it out in the open one time through, and then I'll play it a little bit slower, okay? So if you've got your guitar in your hand, which you should, follow along with me, okay? It is time for our guitar chat, guys, and this is going to be a really cool chat. Well, they're all pretty cool, but real quick first, if you do not have my free practice guide, Metal Riffs and Licks, grab a copy of that. There's a link in the description. And if you already have that, but you're not in my Metal Riff Master course, that's definitely something that you'll want to get into. Links are in the description for all this good stuff, so do check that out after the video. So you guys may remember a few videos back, probably about 2 or 3 months ago, I tuned this guitar down to D standard, and this is my LTD M1000 Deluxe. I love this guitar. I've had this thing, it's got the EMGs. I've had this thing since 2009. I'm filming this in August 2022, so that's a good indicator. I'm probably never getting rid of it because I've had it for so long. I recorded my first album with this guitar, Apocalyptic Dreams. A lot of you have really supported that album, and thank you, by the way. And I am getting back to work on my album for this year. I promise, guys. I'm making some little strides each week, so we are working on that. But yeah, I recorded Apocalyptic Dreams with this guitar. I also recorded the sequel to Heavy Metal Workout, my instrumental albums, Heavy Metal Workout and then Heavy Metal Workout 2. I think for Heavy Metal Workout, I used my Ibanez RG1570. But for Heavy Metal Workout 2, I went back to this guitar here. But anyway, kind of off topic here. So this is in D standard, and I wanted to mess around with some different tunings. It's something that I really haven't messed around with throughout my years, or decades rather, because I'm kind of old now, of playing guitar. I've been playing guitar since 1989. That's when I first started. I have always stayed in standard tuning. I just, for whatever reason, just never cared to play in other tunings. I've tried drop D. I've played other people's guitars that were in drop D, D standard, tuned even lower than that, and it just, for whatever reason, guys, it just never appealed to me. So I went through most of my guitar life, my music life, just not worrying about having a guitar that was tuned to anything different than E standard until recently. And I guess I can thank a lot of you here for that too. You guys, your comments and everything, it kind of helps open me up, because sometimes as we age, we kind of get stuck in our ways. It's like, well, this is the way I want it, and I'm not going any other way. And understand that there's a balance between that, right? In opening yourself up to some new things, there's the balance between that and the fact that something new that you might try, well, you might not like it. Like I bought a 7-string, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. Guys, I don't care for it. You guys, most of you know my battle between, the 7-string versus not having it. It's actually in the case right now. I made a video a month ago why I didn't get rid of my 7-string, because I picked it up and like, man, I've got this newfound love for it. But then after a couple weeks, it's like, it just, I don't know, it doesn't resonate with me. So, for whatever reason, sometimes when you try something new, it might be good that you try that new thing, but it just doesn't work. However, man, this thing in D standard, and I know that's only a half step lower, but I'm playing this guitar a lot lately. I mean, holy crap, I've just been playing the mess out of it, especially through my EVH amp. It really sounds good in this tuning, so I'm kind of falling in love with D standard. Now, I had this guitar tuned to C sharp standard before that, and again, guys, I've played in other tunings. I'll tell you this, I'm not interested in how low can you go. And I'm not bashing anyone for liking the low notes. Some people love to play in A sharp or B, you know, or whatever. Doesn't matter. The fact that it's a super low note does nothing for me. It's not my thing. So, it's okay that it's your thing. That's, again, sometimes we like new things that we try and they captivate us and give us new ideas. Sometimes we might try something new and you know what, we find out it's just not for us. Hence my 7-string being in the case. So anyway, I just kind of wanted to chat about that, you know, briefly here. And guys, let me know what you're tuned to. Drop me a comment. Let me know what your favorite tuning is, rather. I know you probably have multiple guitars tuned. Some of you have like different guitars tuned in like 3 or 4 different tunings, and hey, that's cool. That's okay. It gives you more options. But drop your favorite tuning. I mean, some of you might say E standard. I'd still say that's probably still my favorite tuning, but again, I'm really liking the D standard. It's cool. Some of you like to go lower than that, and guys, that's fine. It's awesome. You know, it's kind of like you really have to just go with where your heart is when it comes to that sort of thing. You know, what brings out your natural style? What feels like you when you play that? And again, guys, I hope this video helped. Even though it was in D standard, a different tuning today, I still hope you're able to apply the concepts to whatever tuning that you're in. So I want you to work on this video, work on the techniques that we went over, and hey, see what you can come up with. So guys, please give this a thumbs up real quick before we leave, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. You guys know I'm constantly putting out content for you. Don't forget to check the links in the description. I've got some cool stuff in there for you. And guys, thank you for all the support. Until the next video, you know what to do. Keep it metal.